Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Garg, as you know, the U.S.-Egypt relationship has been damaged over the past week in the aftermath of the war that Hamas launched against Israel. A summit with President Biden, Egyptian President Sisi, and other Arab leaders was just canceled. On Tuesday night, a rocket fired by Palestinian terrorists fell short of Israel and landed instead in the parking lot of a hospital in Gaza. Palestinian officials in Gaza, which means Hamas, immediately announced that it was an Israeli airstrike and that 500 people had been killed. Their propaganda was then parroted and amplified by American corporate media, Reuters, the New York Times, MSNBC, and CNN. Anti-American riots broke out across the Middle East. Mobs marched on American embassies. The corporate media's rabid anti-Israel reporting that was false endangered the lives of Americans across the region, including our diplomats. That libel continues to reverberate in Egypt. The Egyptian government and public continues to peddle the lie, and they blame America. How do you intend to navigate in this environment in Egypt? What can be done specifically?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I believe strongly that having a confirmed ambassador in place helps elevate our engagement and our ability to advance our U.S. interests. In this case, it's also building the relationships and the trust, which is extremely important for us to do, and being active in terms of telling our side of the story and the truth, which I think is also very important to do.
Do you believe that this sort of anti-Israel media disinformation undermines American national security interests?
I can say, Mr. Senator, an issue that has come up several times today, which I think is vitally important, is disinformation in general, and how we as a U.S. government need to think more strongly about how we deal with disinformation across the globe, and in particular in the Middle East.
Well, unfortunately, many in the media allow their hatred of Israel to color their coverage, and indeed, in this instance, to cause them to peddle outright falsehoods. Mm-hmm. But the media is not alone. I want to ask you about another source of anti-American and anti-Israel incitement in Egypt, mm-hmm. the Muslim Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. The Muslim Brotherhood, as in the past, seized control of the Egyptian government, and they remain influential and dangerous. Mm-hmm. The Egyptian government has imprisoned prominent Muslim Brotherhood figures. I want to ask you about one in particular, mm-hmm. Salah Soltan. Mm-hmm. As you know, Soltan is a Muslim Brotherhood leader and a hate preacher. He has called for the eradication of Jews. He has called for, and this is a quote, obliterating America. Mm-hmm. He has called it divine law. Now, when you and I met in my office, we discussed this case. Mm-hmm. The Biden administration, bizarrely, has been pressuring Egypt to release Soltan and has even brought up his case to withhold assistance to Egypt. Some of my colleagues here in the Senate and on this committee agree with that pressure. Mm-hmm. I'd ask for your judgment. I understand there are genuine concerns about Egypt's imprisonment and treatment of political prisoners. However, Soltan is not an American citizen and is in fact an anti-American radical who preaches the murder of Americans and the murder of Jews. How on earth does it make sense that the Biden administration is trying to free a rabid anti-Semite who hates America and preaches violence against both Israel and America?
Thank you, Mr. Senator, for that question. And thank you. From our last meeting, you highlighted a few of the actual sites, which I did watch in Arabic to make sure that nothing was lost in translation. And I condemn in the strongest sense, and I think everyone on this committee condemns the comments that I did hear Mr. Sultan make on public TV in Egypt. That said, the United States government, this administration, is pushing for rights across the board for those in prison to have medical access. He's 80 years old. He's been in prison for a long time.
With respect, it's not medical access. There are members of this committee that are trying to write into law that America should free this man. And my time has expired, but I just want to read 2 quotes from him to understand who it is the Biden administration is trying to free. Here's one quote. "We will fight Israel and all those who are behind it. Allah is present in this equation, and he is capable of obliterating America and any other oppressor. This is a divine law." That's one quote. Here's another quote. "As someone who has studied Islamic law, specializing in Islamic jurisprudence, I am calling to kill the Israeli ambassador, not just expel him, any Zionist, tourist or other, who enters Egypt must be killed." I ask my Democrat colleagues, is this someone that we should be fighting to release from jail to be able to follow through on exactly what he's pledged he wants to do, which is murder Jews and murder Americans?
Senator Cardin.
Well, first, let me thank Senator Merkley and Senator Young for